sharing screen. Get that ready. There we go. So I'll start sharing my screen in a second and talk through the local nature recovery strategy that we've recently launched. And then I think there'll be some time for questions and things at the end there. But to let you know who I am, my name's Chloe Edwards, and I'm working at Oxfordshire County Council, but we work in partnership closely with the Oxfordshire Local Nature Partnership and lots of partner organisations within there. So I will get my slides ready and share the screen. Brilliant. So hopefully you can now all see some slides. I have lost you, so I'm going to ask for someone to just give me a thumbs up that you can, or say yes that you can hear my screen, please.
Yeah, we can see you nice and clearly.
Thank you. Okay, great. So yes, bear with me. It's later than I normally work, and if my brain doesn't quite cooperate, then that's my excuse, but I'll do my very best. So we are talking about the local nature recovery strategy today, which we have been creating as a tool to help guide the creation of a targeted, resilient network for nature in Oxfordshire. So this has started because 48 authorities across England were tasked with the activity of creating and producing these LNRSs. You can see the list of authorities there in the different areas across the country. And in this case, it's for England, where we've been asked to produce these strategies. I believe there are similar in others in Wales and Scotland of different named strategies, but this case it was 48 authorities across England asked to produce these local nature recovery strategies. And as you can see where Oxfordshire is, as many of you will know, we have many neighbours, so a core part of our work through the strategy was communicating quite closely with our various neighbours. There's 6 different authorities around our edge to ensure that we had connectivity across our borders. So we'll have a little look at our map later on. And as I mentioned, the County Council was labelled as the responsible authority to create the strategy and produce that. But it was important that we didn't work in isolation. We have so many fantastic organisations and authorities working in Oxfordshire across this space. So these are the partners on the screen today who worked very closely with us for the past 2 years, helping shape priorities in the strategy, how we would do a process of engagement, who we would speak to, and all the different processes for the last 2 years. So on top of working closely with them through various meetings, we also went out to make sure that we would engage with a variety of groups across the county, local people as well as organisations in Oxfordshire. And I'm going to show you a summary of the process of engagement that we took. So early in February to March 24, so last year, we went out and started the process of the LNRS, and we went out asking people what their priorities are for nature. That could be about wildlife, habitats, and any actions that people particularly wanted to see be delivered in the county. So this was understanding the actions people are taking, the actions people wanted, and the priorities. So really early on, trying to get that sense of what people wanted to see at the end. So we ran a survey, but we also held 14 workshops, some in person, some online. Many of you may have been to some of those as well. And that was where we invited people to engage in these conversations and help shape the early priorities for the strategy. We had more than 1,000 people join us through those different workshops and the survey. And in May, we then held a webinar, which you can still find online if you'd like to. And that looked at what we heard from our survey and workshops. And then we told people what we would do with that information, how we would turn those priorities into the strategy map, as well as the documents. And more than 200 people joined us at that point to hear about that. And we also put out a survey asking people about any locations where they were taking actions to improve, create, or restore habitats for biodiversity. And that helped us develop a spatial sense of who's doing what where already, because there's a lot of active groups in the county. We couldn't guarantee we could align with absolutely everybody's group, but it could help us sort of choose certain areas where if there was a lot of activity in certain areas. So that was some of our early work to understand what's happening already, the priorities people want to see. So we produced a draft strategy, And then at the 18th of October last year, about this time last year, we put out formal public consultation for 6 weeks. And we put the draft version of the strategy, the documents and the map up online. And we asked people, have we got this about right? Do you think we need to change things? And what do you think we should change? We had over 2,100 responses, which, as far as I know, is a record breaker for any LNRS. So thank you all for those of you who contributed and got in touch with us. We went out to a number of different events at that time as well to make sure people understood what we were doing and how they could get involved if they wanted to. And we have been, for the past number of months, up to a year, we've been making changes to the strategy as well as getting it approved by the various authorities. So that's City Council, the District Councils, County Council and Natural England. It took us about 4 months once we'd finished the strategy to then also get it through all those approval processes. There's been quite a lot of admin in the past year. So we are now very excitingly at the point where we have finalised the strategy and we launched it on the 12th of November. So it's very fresh still, and the documents and the map are now up and available for you to view. So in total, we have over 3,500 responses to the strategy during that creation, and we've tried really hard to bring people into the process. During the engagement process, one of our early workshops with local people and groups working on nature recovery brought out these different priorities and actions and overall a vision for the strategy. And this has been quite a core set of priorities that people wanted to see throughout. So there's a lot of familiar themes here. Overall, a serious goal to pass on the functioning, healthy ecosystems that we could be creating and enhancing to future generations, to build resilience, to improve our existing habitats and fresh water. Water quality was such a huge and clear response that people really want to see that improved across the county, as well as freshwater habitat quality and mitigating flood risks. So connectivity via the watercourses was quite a major theme throughout in Oxfordshire. And of course, there's so many different things on there as well. Corridors that we need to produce to connect key areas, particular species you might be interested in seeing, priority actions to support and deliver some of these different benefits for both species and habitats. And in particular, there was a kind of a nod to connectivity here, but it's being able to walk from one end of the county to the other without any barriers, both for people and for wildlife, which is an exciting opportunity. But these were the sorts of ideas that early on shaped the rest of the strategy. So now that we have published the strategy online, I can show you the finalised LNRS vision, so what we are all trying to work to create. And it is that we want to achieve a well-connected, biodiversity-rich network of nature that is resilient into the future, restored for the health and well-being of future generations and for nature's own sake. So the work that we will be now doing will all be working towards achieving that vision. And the LNRS principles that come with that are first to enhance what we do have. Then when we create more habitats, to do so in a way that can achieve a more connected network of nature and focus on improving connectivity throughout the county. And additionally, not to lose sight of the importance of making space for nature everywhere. So whilst the LNRS does map out this core route to improve connectivity, there is a lot of work to do in all sorts of areas, urban, agricultural, across the whole landscape of the county. So what's in the LNRS now? I've tried to keep this simple because otherwise it can get a bit out of hand. There's so much detail in certain areas. But we have been asked to produce 2 elements. The first is the local habitat map. And in that map, we're asked to map out existing areas that are particularly important for biodiversity and define those in certain ways. So it's mostly designated sites and irreplaceable habitats. And those are the orange areas on our map. And they take up 6.5% of the county at the moment. But they're fragmented, separated, and it is from those existing core sites. We were then asked, where would you need to focus nature recovery efforts to improve and build a resilient network for nature in the county? And those green areas are what we show on the LNRS map. So those green areas are the ideal places, based on the data we had at the time, to focus nature recovery efforts to produce a connected network of nature that will also realise wider benefits for local people. So that's also the potential to relieve the impacts of flooding and climate change, as well as potentially buffering areas that give people nature near them as well. So in total, we've got 6.5% of these core designated sites, and we have then mapped a further 34% of recovery areas where we're inviting people to particularly focus habitat creation and enhancement work. So that's the local habitat map. And then we will also need detail to go with that, right? Because that's very high level. So within the documents that we've got, they are the statement of biodiversity priorities. The first is a description of Oxfordshire, of biodiversity in the county, of the aims and the vision of the strategy that's contained there. Then there are habitat actions and priorities that are particularly important to deliver, and those are listed. So it might say we need to be achieving a greater range of species-rich grasslands across the county, and then we have actions written out in there that define what we mean. So we may need to both create areas of new calcareous grassland, we may need to create then also acid species-rich grassland. So it breaks down each of those actions, describes the type of existing guidance and handbooks that might be available to help people do that, and it assigns habitat codes to help people understand the exact type of habitat we're looking to help achieve there, or we're recommending could be achieved. So you've got the description of the county, habitat actions with detail about how to deliver them, and then additionally a species list. So these are the priorities to achieve for species in the county. This list we were asked to create in a particular way by Natural England. It is not a list of everyone's favourite species. It's not a list of all of the vulnerable or threatened species. It is a very particular list. They asked us to identify which species are at risk and which species could you take a particular action for that would help recover or help their chance of recovery significantly. So a vulnerable, threatened or near threatened species, and with a particular action that could be taken to improve their chances of success as a population. And on that list there, we've got different actions for different species. So one example at the top is the Barbary carpet moth, whereby planting new barberry plants in suitable locations, we could work to stabilise the population and then hope to expand out. And there's a variety of different species actions on that list there. The caveat is that on our habitat actions, we would expect those habitat actions to generally help a vast number of species, many of which are threatened or near threatened. So this list itself is about those additional actions that might be needed to help species who need an extra helping hand, a tailored or bespoke action. So I've given you lots of detailed information there, and I'm more than happy to talk about any of those documents. But what I'd like to do is show you an example of the habitat map sort of in action. So here is the map as it would look for somebody accessing it online. So it's online, it's publicly accessible, and it's interactive. So when it's loaded, it looks like this, and that shows that network I've talked about. And that those green and orange areas show key opportunity areas to focus nature recovery efforts. And in each and all of those areas that are mapped, we have got specific actions about what could be done in all those locations. So I'm going to zoom in and show you an example of actions mapped within that network. So as you zoom in, the network becomes more clear, and the closer you get, the more detail will load. So as you get to about here, you'll see that whole area, but as you go a step further, that will load up to show lots of different types of actions with different colours on there. So these are the detailed actions now showing up. As you zoom in, you might find a particular area you're wanting to look at. So I'm going to go into this field that's just here, but you could look at any part of the map. And finding the area, you might want to turn on the satellite imagery. So the 4 squares here, and we have made a video about this if you'd like to watch that later as well. The 4 squares here offer a set of maps when you click them, and you can click imagery, which will turn on the sort of on the ground view, satellite view there. You can toggle any of the data for the LNRS on and off which you can do over here on the left. So by clicking that eye icon, you can turn it on and off, just to make sure you're looking at the space you thought you were, turn it back on, and then you can click any location on the map to see what the recommended actions are for that location. So I'm interested in this kind of square here, and I would like to know, hypothetically, as the landowner, I'm not, by the way, but this is just an example I've pulled out, what I could be doing or what the LNRS is recommending could be done in that area there. So by clicking on it, what you'll get is a pop-up that will tell you the action that the LNRS is recommending for that location. So in this case, it's suggesting to create areas of calcareous species-rich grassland in suitable locations, particularly slopes. And there is one of 5 actions mapped here. So there are other actions, and you can click through them using these arrow icons here. So clicking to see what else I could do in addition to that grassland creation. Could also create new varied ponds in suitable locations to increase the amount of clean water habitats. Create or enhance suitable flower-rich grassland habitats with plentiful populations of violets and light patches of scrub for the dark green fritillary. So this is an example of where we've mapped a specific species measure or action onto the map. So we've built some of those, a good number of those, into the mapping as well. So it's really where we can identify locations for all the actions we found, then we've put them onto the map as well. So 3 of 5, what else could we do? We could also create new areas of the habitat in a way that contains a matrix of habitat types. So that could include small woodland patches, scattered trees, scrub, and grassland. So those contain all of the main actions that we'd like to achieve. And then anywhere across the map that you do click, you'll also get a wider reminder that to not forget that you can use the documents, both the biodiversity priorities, which are the habitat actions, and the species priorities, to see if there's any other unmapped actions you could be taking across the county. So what we mean by that, there are some unmapped actions we weren't able to map to specific locations, and they're labelled on our documents as such. An example is an important action to take across the county in appropriate areas is the creation of scrub. However, it's very challenging to map exactly where might be suitable to create scrub. So what we've done instead is labelled it an unmapped action and left a reminder here for people to be able to include unmapped actions in their plans if they'd like to. So those are the 5 things we could do there. We now get a sense of a grassland in a mosaic manner that might have some scattered trees, and we might particularly work to bring up violet populations for the dark green fritillary. And we might also be able to add in some ponds. So hopefully that gives you the sense of the type of habitat the LNRS is recommending or encouraging for that location. Now, in our documents, to show you how they interact with the map, you'll remember here that we had one of the actions telling us that we could create suitable habitat for the dark green fritillary with violets and light patches of scrub. So if you wanted to find the detail for the LNRS, you can look at our species list, which I was talking about earlier. And on the species list, you'll find that headline action, but within it, some more detail about what could be delivered. So you can deliver the grasslands in a certain type of way. And this link here will take you to Butterfly Conservation's fact sheet about the butterfly and the type of habitat that it particularly depends on. So for lots of these actions, there's more information behind the scenes that can help you to form a project plan as well. On our species list, for each of the species, you'll also find a link to a map, which is at the bottom of the document, and it shows you the distribution of those species in Oxfordshire in recent history. So it gives you dates, different decades and timeframes, and then shows you where the species has been recorded in the county. And that could also help to inform different project plans. So that's how those species ones work. If you want to find more detail, you can go to the species list. And then similarly, for the habitats, you can go back to the statement of biodiversity priorities, habitat actions. And if you wanted to take forward the recommendation to create areas of calcareous species-rich grassland, you can have a look at the measure that's written on our document here. And you'll see that there are creation and management guidance links in there, as well as information about the suitable soil types and key locations where that might be suitable, and then information about the type of action we're encouraging. So there is quite a lot of detail in there to help people. The intention is that will help people develop plans and find guidance more quickly. Finally, something worth saying about the map is that if you're interested in taking the data that's held there, extracting it and using it in your own mapping tools you might have, so you might have LandApp, or you might have QGIS, you could draw around the location you're interested in using one of the tools we've recently added to the map, which is this little pin within the circle here. It's called PM Layer Area Query. It's not a great name, I appreciate, but it does work. And you can draw around your area of interest. It will tell you which measures are listed in there, and you can then click this icon to export those. And we have, as I've mentioned previously, we've created a video that shows people how to do this, and that's up online with our map as well. So if you want to kind of watch an example and then do one yourself, you can. And you'd need somewhere then to export that to. And I believe Marcus would be a good port of call if any of you would like some help with that. So in summary, what have we been doing? Well, we've created a collaboratively created tool that offers a blueprint for nature recovery actions in the county, trying to pick out key areas where investment could be particularly targeted. This isn't something one organisation or person could do by themselves. We need to work together to deliver this vision. It needs to be delivered by a range of organisations working together. And it offers a guide for all those organisations to target their resources in a joined up manner. So by seeing if someone delivers some part of one of the networks or the corridors here, it will build motivation for partners to then work on adjacent bits. And you'll see how that really builds up value when we know we're all connecting the same corridors together. This is an important one, is that landowners or managers can do other things. So whilst we have mapped recommendations, those are not prescriptions. People do not have to deliver the actions we've mapped. There is no legal power added to the LNRS that allows us to say you must do this, and it wouldn't be appropriate. There are habitat actions that will always and have always required permissions before you take them, and the LNRS doesn't bypass any of that. So by mapping, grassland here or woodland creation there, it doesn't mean you can just go ahead. You still do need to make sure you've got the permissions to take those actions. And on the ground checks are also still important. So in order to fully consider the range of species that might have been present at the site, the biodiversity and the ecology, TVERC would be a great place to go in order to get data searches about your site if you have a site that you're interested in taking actions on. And that might help you decide on certain actions being more important than the other if you need to pick and choose. So that could be particularly useful as well. All right, the strategy itself is intended to try and incentivize action and not to constrain. So different people have different ambitions for using things in various ways. But as I've mentioned, these are recommendations for biodiversity, and we don't have a legal scope to prevent development through this tool or any other type of land use. And the LNRS guidance from government tells us that the main purpose of the strategies is to identify those locations where we want to create or improve habitat, which could provide the greatest benefits for nature and the wider environment. So strategies like this, the LNRS, do not force the landowners or managers to make any changes. Instead, the government is encouraging action through opportunities for funding and investment. And yes, we are pushing for more and more opportunities for funding and investment, and trying to work out exactly what's meant by the government is encouraging action, and make sure we can translate that into the funding that people need locally for these actions. There will be a requirement on all authorities and public bodies to have regard to the LNRS in their local decision making. And you can find more information online at Planning Law blog. There's various information out there, but in summary, local authorities, parish councils, and other public bodies are currently discussing how to embed the LNRS into their decision-making for nature. And we're in touch with all the authorities in Oxfordshire, and we're speaking with parish councils through the OALC, which is the local council body. And we're building support systems in to help others embed the LNRS into their decision making. So we're coming towards the end now. What is next for the LNRS? In 3 to 10 years' time, and we don't know when within that time frame, government will ask all of those 48 authorities that I showed you on the map earlier to review and republish their strategies using the latest available data, local priorities, and an update effectively. So in the meantime, the documents and the map are not allowed to be changed. Those are the priority areas and actions for that period of time. But in the meantime, we have received further 12 months of funding to continue working in partnership with people and organisations locally to do a couple of key things. So first, I am working to try and help people understand and use the strategy. We're then working across, as I've mentioned, the local planning authorities and public bodies, parish councils, to try and embed the LNRS into local decision making. And so far that has been really well received. We're then working to identify and support strategic projects, so particularly either large scale or projects of great impact. And we are looking to use some additional resource from the strategy's budget to help those projects develop and deliver actions. We are then building the strategy into other local decision making. So that doesn't just have to be public bodies, but it can be other local strategies and plans that various organisations might be making at the moment. And then finally, we need to monitor and evaluate actions that are being delivered across the county. So working with groups like many of yourselves on the call today, trying to understand who has already done what where. We do know that to some extent, but trying to capture that in a consistent manner so that we can show people publicly who is doing what in Oxfordshire, the type of actions being delivered, and make a sort of consistent framework of that data. And ideally, on that map I showed you earlier, my goal is that we can effectively all together colour that in and say, this group has taken this action in this location, and that can really build momentum towards the overall network. So if you're interested in helping deliver the strategy, or you might already be doing that, you could take or continue taking one of the mapped or unmapped actions. So you could be creating or enhancing habitats. If you're already doing that, then you are probably already delivering the strategy. You could use the strategy to apply for funding or ask for support from local organisations. So you can say these are actions the LNRS has prioritised, and we would like additional support funding to help deliver those. You might be particularly keen to take one of the species actions. So you might want to build a project around a particular species, and certain species are much more local to certain areas in the county than others. So this can be quite a nice way to form a project and build local interest in projects as well. Similarly, depending on your situation, you might be able to talk with neighbours and collaborate across boundaries to make sure that actions don't stop at borders. And then we can all be supporting and aligning strategies, plans, and funding with the LNRS as well, trying to help make the vision a reality. And if you have any decision-making tools or processes, you could be using the strategy in there to try and help make sure that you're aligned with that if you would choose to. So that is all from me today, but I'm very happy to try and answer some questions. Thank you for listening, and there is a QR code there that you could take a screenshot of, or I will also send round as a PDF after the meeting today. I think Marcus and Joe will be able to share that. Otherwise, you can search for LNRS Oxfordshire online, and it should pop up pretty quickly on the County Council page, and there's links there as well. So thank you all very much. I'm going to stop sharing now and come back to the room.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Chloe. Anyone want to kick off?
Thank you.
While people are just thinking about questions, I was interested in what you're saying about sort of colouring in the map with actions we're taking. Could you unpack a bit more about how that could work, and how we get started on that?
Definitely. So I was at a project recently where they were creating a traditional orchard, and what the goal would be for projects like that and others is to be able to draw a shapefile on a map, or draw an area on a map, and say, in this area, we've created a traditional orchard that was delivered by this person or this group, and might have been funded through this funder. And there might be a link as well we might be able to link to. So we'll be able to create a shape on the map we can add to our green and orange network that I was showing you. And we can say effectively that area, somebody has done that action already. So by piecemealing all the different actions together, I think there's going to be actually a huge amount of work we can showcase in the county already, and ideally add some links to some of the groups already undertaking a lot of that work, and basically build up and support the existing actions happening, and also show who's done what where, really.
That'd be really good. So I think it's really important. We're all recognizing we need 30% well managed for nature, and we're on about a tenth of that in Oxfordshire at the moment, aren't we? So there's loads to do.
Lots to do.
If you've got a question, do put a hand up. We'll try to watch for hands going up. I'll change to gallery view just so that I can spot who's putting a hand up. Chloe will still be there.
Can't find my button, but
We've got right, Lisa. Floor is yours. And then Wendy, I can see a hand.
It was really interesting. Thanks, Chloe. I think that it's really fascinating to see the end result, having sort of followed all the consultations and watched all the webinars, and yeah, I think it's brilliant and really inclusive. But I just wanted to take the opportunity, if I could, to plug the CAG Oxfordshire iNaturalist project, because obviously it goes hand in hand to for us to know ongoing what species that we've got where. And so we've been working with CAG to have a iNaturalist project for people that are sort of very new to recording their observations and that are keen to get involved and sort of want some support on that. I'll put the link in the chat if people want to join. And we've also got one to try to prioritise to try and help people understand the priority species in the LNRS, so that they can, all they need to do is sort of go on the project and they can have a look at their own observations, because it's obviously there's a lot of species to remember. And if we actually go onto the project and look at our own species that have gone into that project, it helps us to understand sort of which ones that we do know about that we might not have realized. So I should be quiet. I should pop those links in there.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you, Lisa. Yeah, it's been nice to be able to work with people throughout this whole process and get to the point of being able to put it up now. And yeah, there's loads that's changed as a result of that engagement work. So thank you for keeping in touch with us throughout as well. And nice to see the project up there. I assume you've already been in touch with TVERC about opportunities to support that project as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Wendy and then Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chloe. That another brilliant opportunity to communicate, and really good. I wanted to ask about the environmental improvement plan, because I know it's very new, only came out, was it yesterday? Oh, yeah. But do you see things coming out of that which will help organizations deliver the strategy?
It's interesting. So I opened it up yesterday. It was 120 pages, and my inbox is quite busy, so I haven't got through it yet. But having said that, I did search for local nature recovery strategy, and I can see that it is something they're really building into the environment improvement plan alongside all the rest of the projects they've got going. So I can see that it is something they're looking to prioritize, and do see delivery being targeted through that. So it's good to see additional recognition of the importance of the strategies on that national network scale. But I don't think there's any magic answers in there for funding yet. So I think we need to continue working at the local level to build up opportunities for funding and resource, which we're looking into outside of the national picture, as well as always hoping that there's going to be some additional support from government too.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, Rachel, and then John.
I think John had his
Oh,
hand up
you had
first.
hand up first. Okay,
Yeah,
do go first then, John.
I'm not in any rush. We're a year into having taken on an acre of grassland, limestone grassland, and we've done a lot of work. Thank you, Toe. Thank you, Wild Oxfordshire. And we're at a situation where it would be quite nice to put it onto your map, but I'm not sure how I get to your map to do it, and if somebody can help me. I wasn't sure. I didn't quite catch what we're to do.
Let's talk, so John.
Is that in order to record the actions you've taken, John, that you'd be keen to add?
And to put the area on the map. Interestingly, I've looked at the detail of the map that you've produced, which is very interesting. But probably in the area we've done it, it isn't quite correct in some aspects, but we'd like to put our bit on it.
Perfect. Yes. Okay, so the way that we would look to do that, we're working on creating a recording tool at the moment. And we had a webinar today from Natural England about what they would suggest we try to record. So we're trying to make sure that the way we capture that information from projects like yourselves is consistent with what Natural England would like to collect on a larger scale. So come January, my hope is that we will have a tool up online towards the end of January. And that will enable you to add either your group or individual name if you'd like to add that, draw around the area where you've taken the action, and then that will help us build that into our map and make the picture of who's already taken action. And then you'll be able to tell us actually the actions you have taken, which will help inform future versions of this map, so that we already know then what's been done there, what type of habitat's present there, any particular species you've worked to deliver actions for, and then we want to build that into any kind of future reviews, so it can become a long-term legacy, effectively.
Great.
But
so we'll wait for the new year.
Yes, thank you. And we'll be doing lots of communications about that, so it'd be great to have another session like this in the future where I can show that tool perhaps and give people an example of how to fill that in.
Quite interestingly, I mean, one of our species, we've got several species we're doing. We're doing a lot of work on moths, actually, that will inform how we develop the habitat. The glowworms, that's not one of your species that you've got on your list, which I was a bit surprised by.
Yes.
We do have, we did manage to find some glowworms on site. Quite exciting.
No, that is good. There's been quite a lot of reports across different groups keen to have glowworms involved, and it is nice to see different areas popping up across the county where people are reporting them. And we can definitely, we want to support all species, but when we ask people what was the specific action they would recommend for supporting the recovery for glowworms, it was also other actions that we've put on our habitat actions. So by delivering the improvement and enhancement of habitats, we would expect that glowworms would also be able to recover. And so there wasn't an additional action specific for them that the group agreed we could then have them on the list. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel.
So those of you who haven't...
You're very faint. Oh, yeah, okay.
For those of you who haven't come across TOE yet, I just thought I'd give a few examples of grants that we've awarded recently, which can help local groups do this. So Lisa mentioned how important species recording is to know what you've got and feed into this process. And I think it was last year, wasn't it, Lisa? We gave you a grant which you used to buy a bat detector so that the Keep Nethercote Rural volunteers can go around and have a better idea of what's there. And it also has the ability to pick up different sounds. I think you're picking up bird calls as well, aren't you, nocturnally? So that sort of application for a grant from us could help in a very practical way with species recording. So Chloe's mentioned habitat improvements, and a group that she had looked at recently where they had planted a traditional orchard planting community orchards is something that TOW quite often funds. So we love to have applications like that, and can also put you in touch with other community groups around the county who've done a similar thing and can perhaps help give you advice and save you reinventing the wheel, which when you're setting out doing something can be quite daunting. So Chloe also mentioned actions for species. And in the last few months, we've given grants to the Banbury Ornithological Society, who are doing specific work for curlew in their area along the Upper Cherwell. And we recently, just in the last week or two, gave a grant to some volunteers who are working on a site where military orchid, which is another species which has been highlighted in the LNRS, have been rediscovered, having been lost from that site for a while. They were lost because the habitat management was inappropriate. A new landowner who's more favourable to orchids is reintroducing the right management, and surprise, surprise, the species is popping up. So we're giving extra money to help this. So this is very much money that TOW is able to give at a local level. So if there's something that you're thinking about, then do get in touch with us. I'll put my email address in the chat, because we might well have done something similar with somebody, and as I say, sometimes the hard bit is knowing where to start, and we can help you there.
Any other questions or comments?
I think I noticed one in the chat from Sam, who said, you mentioned investing in strategic projects. What are the criteria for those that will be funded directly? And are you identifying in collaboration with any other organisations, like ones listed there, including farmer clusters? So we are developing at the moment criteria for strategic projects. We started collecting information at the Local Nature Partnership Forum event, which was on the 12th of November. So that was only a couple of weeks ago. We started asking people. We had about 150 different attendees at that event from a range of different nature recovery organisations, authorities and others. And one of the workshop questions was, what do you see as strategic criteria for nature recovery projects in the county? So we wanted to try and build up an understanding of what people feel is strategic for Oxfordshire based on their wealth of experience from the people attending that meeting. And we got a huge range of criteria, so we've been working that up into a document now. But some of the criteria that came out included scale, so very large scale projects as being particularly strategic, but also lots of small scale projects working together in a similar fashion as well could be strategic. We have other criteria about replicability, or doing a project that could be exemplar, or a pilot project that might showcase really good examples of habitat management, conservation techniques, or it could be focused on a particular species that is in need. So there was a range of different criteria coming out. There was community integration was another, so making sure that projects had worked to integrate their plans into the local community. And community can take a range of forms, but understanding that people need to have engaged and built awareness about their project. So there was a range of different criteria coming up, and we have been identifying some known strategic projects or potentially strategic projects from the group of 150 people who attended that launch event as well in those workshops. We asked people, what do they think strategic projects already are across the county? So we've been developing an understanding, but we need to continue doing that. We need to do it in a way that balances admin and not asking people to make loads of applications and rewrite things they've already shown us or written, whilst also scoring it in a fair and transparent manner. So we're just navigating that now, and it will be Oxfordshire's Local Nature Partnership Board who will be agreeing on the strategic criteria and helping define those, and then we will get in touch with projects around the county. it's early days, but we're getting there. Hope that answers the question, Sam. I think you're on a train, so I hope you don't get disturbed on the train and it gets to where it's supposed to be going and all the rest of it as well. Thanks, Marcus. I think those are all the questions I saw in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely. Any more for any more?
Would I just ask something quickly? You know, at the start on the sort of board that you showed of everyone's ideas from the start, and one of the things said to be able to walk from one end of Oxfordshire to the other without any barriers. I just was interested if you know, is that something that's possible?
Good question. It's a huge challenge. It's a great ambition. I think the reality of accessible routes is people are repeatedly asking for genuinely accessible routes. So I think whilst access is provided a lot of the time, access has a range of meanings to different people. And so some people who can access a route might not, others might not be able to. So we will be looking at the long distance public rights of way and others as key opportunity areas. We might be able to deliver at least some part of that ambition that people have got. Because fundamentally we do want to create these connected networks that are permeable for wildlife and for people. So yeah, I can't tell you if it is how it's going to happen, but we're going to be working with public rights of way, landowners and others on all parts of the strategy, and that will be one of the things we look to do. And building in genuine accessibility for a range of different people will be an exciting opportunity that crosses over both with nature recovery opportunities, but also with strategic active travel options and the existing work for public rights of way. So there's lots of different groups that could get involved in that. Yeah.
One of the things I think is exciting about the strategy and everything that's sort of building up at the moment is that this is a real opportunity for benefiting people. As we benefit nature, nature will benefit us. And it's really exciting to see how Lizzie Moore's working group on people and nature as part of the forum is getting a lot of people together to really get organized on how to connect people to nature. And that's going to be good for nature. It's going to be good for people. And it's, I think this is one of the things that makes it really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. No, Lizzie's work is great. And we'll be in touch with those different groups within the local nature partnership as well, but through the delivery of the work. So looking for that range of strategic projects. It'll include diverse projects as well that might bring us over into health and nature and look at those particular benefits that we can get for people through this work. So be exciting.
Any other questions or comments? That was really clear, Chloe, and really helpful. Thank you. I don't know if you've been able to see all the comments on the Zoom chat. I've made some short links, which I hope will help to access. We can send those out. So tiny.cc OLNRS for the strategy and tiny.cc OLNRS map. And it's worth highlighting that we're putting a lot of these meeting recordings onto YouTube. So Joe's put the link to that, youtube.com/CAG Oxfordshire 215. And I think we'll be putting this one up for sure. So do look out for that. If you're not part of our general circulation and want to keep in touch on these meetings, including the link to the recording when it comes out, do make sure you leave your email in the Zoom chat and we'll do our best to pick up on that. It was great to see a lot of old friends here, but also some new people. So yeah, do stay in touch if you want to.